Welcome to our second Lunch and Learn. This is all about the impact of social media on youth mental health and the role of RHY providers. Today, I'm so excited to be joined by three panelists. We have Angela Lee, who is the director at Love is Respect. Angela has been featured on the Let's Talk podcast in 2 episodes, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm very excited for Angela to lend that silky smooth voice to us today as they share some expertise about teen dating violence and the impact of social media there. We have James Arnold, who is a Chicago native, just like me. They are in Andersonville. They are branch manager at the BMO Bank in Andersonville, I believe. And then we are also joined by Jillian Yearns, who is a member of the National Runaway Safe Line Youth Advisory Board. Jillian has also been featured on the Let's Talk podcast in a really incredible episode. And you'll also see Jillian featured in our latest ad campaign. So James, it sounds like we need to schedule a podcast episode with you so you can join the club. It sounds really exciting. So just before we jump into everything, I want to just give a little bit of background on the National Runaway Safe Line. My name, by the way, is Christopher. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications here. I also produce our Let's Talk podcast. So if you're listening now and you've heard the Let's Talk podcast or you haven't, and you'd like for your organization to be featured, or if you think you have something that you'd like to add, please send me an email. I'll make sure to drop my email in the chat during this call today. Let me know what your thoughts are, and maybe we can get something on the books. So about National Runaway Safe Line. So National Runaway Safe Line, our mission is to ensure that youth who have run away or are experiencing homelessness or facing crisis are safe and off the streets. Every year, we make over 100,000 connections through our hotline and our online services such as chat and forum and things like that. And we have recently launched a new text line. So you can text the same number, 1-800-RUNAWAY, to text with one of our team members in our crisis center. We also offer free educational and outreach material through our website. You can either download those materials and have them printed yourself, or we will happily mail those to you at no charge. And then we also offer a 14-module evidence-based Let's Talk Runaway Prevention curriculum, which has been updated recently to talk about some topics that are important to us today, like online safety and things like that, which kind of ties into today's call. If you're not really familiar with the National Runaway Safe Line, if you visit our website, again, we have like a live chat and live texting options there. We also offer a forum, which I think is a really great resource for young people who may have questions, but don't necessarily feel comfortable reaching out to someone. There are thousands and thousands of posts there from young people who are experiencing different types of crisis and asking questions that are really helpful. So it's a great resource to share with young people if you think that they may be experiencing something but aren't necessarily ready to talk about it. You also will find our blog there where we post lots of fun stuff like our Volunteer of the Month and different spotlights for organizations throughout the month of November for National Runaway Prevention Month. If you in turn call our hotline, which is 1-800-RUNAWAY, first, it's toll-free and confidential, nothing that we do cost anybody. You are going to be able to speak with a trauma-informed, solution-focused specialist who is non-judgmental and non-directive. They're here to listen and here to help. We also can make referrals. If you need referrals, we offer a messaging service, and it's called like for mediation to be able to like conference calls. There it is. It's a whole bullet right there in front of my face. And then we also offer a home free program, which is a family reunification and transportation program. So if a youth is in a situation that doesn't feel safe, we help them either get home or get away from home, whichever makes the most sense in that situation. So today we will be talking about social media. So I want to share just a little bit of data to get us started. This is all thanks to the Pew Research Center. So the first thing is that everyone should know that the majority of teens these days, the apps that they're focused on are YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat. And I really want there to be a focus on YouTube because I think today, the way that the news presents it is as if TikTok is the biggest and only platform where young people are spending their time. But in reality, more people are spending time on YouTube, and YouTube has introduced new social features that allow people to communicate in short form videos or in the comments section. I think the data says that like a lot of the teens who are using YouTube report using it like constantly is the word that they use. With other apps like Facebook and Twitter, we've noticed that the use of young people has dropped. Even from 2014 to 2015, it was 71% drop, and then a 32% drop in 2022. Tumblr, also, if you're familiar with Tumblr, it's just not really a super popular platform anymore, but it's experienced the same decline. Now, the use of these social media platforms does vary by gender, as teen girls are more likely to use TikTok. But like I mentioned before, the majority of teens, regardless of gender, are using YouTube and TikTok literally every single day. And again, they're saying that they're using it constantly. About 3/4 of teens say they use YouTube daily, and 58% say they say the same about TikTok. Snapchat, if you're familiar with Snapchat, is a bit closer at 51%, and then Instagram is at 50%. Just calling back to the Facebook data point, with that decrease, only about 19% of teens report that they're actually using Facebook. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be using Facebook to reach out to teens. It just may mean that that's not the primary place that you focus. Teens are more likely to say social media has had a negative effect on others than on themselves. And then some 32% say social media has had mostly a negative effect on people our age, while 9% say that social media's effect on themselves. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that fact, mostly because, like most people are saying, they're not saying that about themselves. It's really difficult to kind of take a step back and look at how it may be affecting your peers, and then also evaluate like how you're taking that information. So teens on these platforms are more likely to say that they've had a positive impact on their own life, like I mentioned. The largest share of teens say social media has had neither positive or negative effect on their self. That's 59%. And these patterns are similar across demographic groups. So one more thing to touch on is we just launched a new social media campaign. So if you've ever followed our social media, you should know we do all that we can to incorporate the youth perspective and the youth voice. We really engage with our youth advisory board to make sure that they have input on these things and to make sure that they make sense. The whole point is so that we can be effective in our methods in reaching young people. We want to meet young people where they are, which is often on social media. So we needed to make adjustments to how we're putting out messaging on social media. We did a new campaign with an organization from Atlanta called Ideas United. And through that campaign, they were also insistent on heavily involving our youth advisory board. To give a little context to that, these are a couple of the mock-ups that they made based on looking at some of our peer organizations and organizations that we love, just to get to create these base templates. We then took these templates and showed them to our youth advisory board, and they destroyed them. They literally did not hold back. They were super helpful in helping make sure that every part of the campaign felt realistic and didn't feel forced or anything like that. So having that input for us was tremendous. This ended up being the outcome of those. So you can kind of see some of the parts of the previous ads that we took away. So like going back just really quickly, you can see that like one of the things that was liked was the way that the font was shaped, the colors, things like that are seen now implemented into the actual campaign itself. Oh, and who is that in the bottom left-hand corner? It's Jillian. Yes, Jillian is featured in this campaign, looking gorgeous as always. And we are really excited you'll be seeing more of these on our TikTok account, on our Instagram account, and on our YouTube Shorts account. I hope if you're an organization that works with young people, you have considered joining YouTube Shorts. Now, without further ado, and I'm sure you're all tired of me talking, I want to go ahead and introduce all of our guests. I am not going to read this tremendous and amazing bio for Angela Lee because Angela Lee can do that herself. Angela, if you wouldn't mind just going ahead and giving a brief introduction whenever you're ready.
Absolutely. And thank you all, and to the panelists and to NRS for inviting me to this space, right? And I don't have on green, but I am definitely holding green close to me. So my name is Angela Lee. I'm the Love is Respect Director. My pronouns are she, her, and they. And I've been with the hotline going on 13 years. Started off on the front lines, quickly moved up to program service manager. And for the last 4 years, I've been serving as the Love is Respect Director. I'm a survivor myself, and I identify as a lesbian. So I know firsthand some of the barriers that populations on the margin can face, right? And homeless or insecure housing being one of the populations on the margin. But I also feel that youth, regardless of their age, race, social, economic status, orientation, identity, all deserve to have a healthy relationship. So I am very passionate about empowering young people to be their best selves. So I'm really happy to be here. And thank you, Christopher, for allowing me to introduce myself.
Oh, of course. Thank you for gracing us with your presence and your expertise today. I'm really excited for everyone to be able to hear from you. Up next, I want to take a moment for everyone to meet James Arnold, my fellow Chicago native. James, whenever you're ready, if you want to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Christopher. Yeah, so my name is James Arnold, pronouns are he, him. I'm currently a branch manager with BMO here in Andersonville neighborhood in Chicago. So BMO, we have a pretty long history of partnering with various neighborhood groups. So I'm in charge of our employee resource group called BMO Pride, which is LGBTQ focused. And we sponsored some organizations of the community like Center on Halstead. This is a very big one because they have a big focus on LGBTQ individuals that are both seniors and youth. And so bridging the gap on anyone in kind of a crisis situation, getting them resources, access, education, things like that. So we're very proud sponsor of that, and we try to do as much volunteering, community efforts, anything that we can do that can run that education and knowledge piece, whether it's from a finance perspective, volunteer perspective, those kind of things. So we're always very excited to, see how we can be a good resource and be of assistance to the community as being sort of part of the community.
I did that thing where I muted myself and I couldn't figure out how to unmute myself. Okay, thank you for sharing, James. And last, but certainly not least, the incredible Jillian Yearns. Jillian, if you want to take a moment just to introduce yourself to everyone, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jillian Yearns. I'm 18 and I live in Cartersville, Georgia. I recently joined NRS back in July when I had joined my program because I used to be homeless. So ever since I joined NRS, it really just skyrocketed from there. Everybody is really talented and really respectful, and they just really changed my perspective on my own life. So I'm just really here to just help youth out that are my age and older, and anyone for that matter that have gone through the similar experience that I have gone through. And even if we have like different experiences, to just like lead them into like a better direction, because I know what it was like being homeless. I used to sleep in my car with my son. So I just want to do my role into like stopping youth homelessness and just helping kids my age just have a brighter future, because nobody deserves to be homeless. And since I was able to get myself out of that time and place in my life, and now that I'm able to do better, I just want to be able to give back to my community the way they've given back to me. So that's why I'm here.
I did it again. Okay, thank you, Jillian.
No, I'm doing good. Hold on.
One special request for you is to please do not make me cry. The last time, Jillian, I got to watch them speak, I cried 3 times, which is not very like me, but such an incredible storyteller and such a great advocate for young people. So without further ado, I am ready to go ahead and jump into the panel itself. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. All of us should be spotlighted for you all to see. And don't worry, we will have a question and answer portion towards the end of this. So if you have any questions, please take note of them, write them down. There will be an opportunity to make sure that those get answered later. So I'm gonna start off with a question for everyone. The question is, are there any specific factors within social media platforms that exacerbate mental health issues among youth? An example that I can give is that Instagram is currently moving away from showing the number of likes that a person receives on there, or that is on a certain post, which is to help prevent self-consciousness, basically. It's a way to improve some complaints about young people's mental health. So keep that in mind. And just to restate the question, are there any specific factors within social media platforms that exacerbate mental health issues? Why don't we start with you, Angela?
Absolutely, I would love to, and I knew you were coming to me. That's a great question, though, and I think that would probably require like 3 or 4 hours, but you kind of like honed in to one of the examples that I was speaking of, so many times young people, even older adults, are attached to how many likes they get, right? We have to understand the impact that social media can have on everyone. But I think that it's also equally important to understand that people who are choosing to cause harm will use any and every tool, Chris, available to them to exert power and control. And that's just as true on social media as it is in the digital, and in digital realms as it is in real life. So, and I can speak to this because we saw these trends emerge in the hotlines online. We conducted an online abuse and harassment survey in 2022, last year. And the survey, it confirmed something that we've witnessed for a long time, which is that it is an incredibly widespread issue, right? In fact, 100% of respondents stated they experienced at least one type of online harassment or abuse. But the most common setting this occurred in was via text and messaging apps. So we have to be mindful of that. But one of the things that we know at Love is Respect is that there's this false binary between in real life and online. And that is so harmful because harm is harm and abuse is dangerous. It's very dangerous, no matter where it is taking place, right? And it can affect a person's self-esteem. It can make them indecisive. It can make them emotionally up and down. Respondents to our survey shared that many times their online abusive experiences weren't validated because it wasn't in real life, right? Or physical harm, despite their suffering and what they were experiencing. So yes, it can exasperate as far as mental health, meaning depression, isolation, so you're not being around your community. It can really affect a person's well-being. So I think it's important to really talk more about that topic. So I really appreciate that question.
Thank you for sharing that. I put a link to the survey that Angela was mentioning in the comments. So if you're curious about that, please take a moment to read through. We have used this data, I believe, earlier this year in a series on the topic. So it's really helpful information. How about you, Jillian? Is there anything in particular on social media that you think is making the mental health issues worse for young people?
Yes. So I'm really big on social media. Well, I wouldn't say really big, but I'm getting there. I'm really big on TikTok. Um, I've I'm kind of biased on the whole thing because I've never really had that sense of where like it was always harm with social media. Like I grew up to where everybody was always starting to like do more trends and be more creative, and that's like when TikTok really started booming and stuff like that. So I really had like a really big impact on it and stuff like that. I was trying to like take my TikTok more seriously and see when I was back in July when I was in Chicago, trying to see how I could make my TikTok be more for like youth, because it's a lot of youth on there. I know kids that are like maybe 13 that start using TikTok, 13 through about like 18 in my age range. So I mean, I'm sorry, I'm nervous and I have people around me, but I was trying to see how I could better like use my platform to just give more outreach to youth, because I know a lot of times youth kids my age, they sometimes get like a nervous to talk to older people. And I've even seen it on TikTok where it's like, oh, it's this big old person and they're up there and they're talking to these kids. And like, I'm even nervous right now, but I feel like if me being like young and I've gone through stuff in a young experience, that I can better relate to more kids on there. So I actually did like a test run, and I went live the other day just saying, hey, I want to give out and talk to youth and just give like talk to me kind of like and tell me like what you're going through, and maybe I can see how I can help you or give advice and things like that. And I had about 80 people on there just saying a whole bunch of stuff like, hey, I'm only 16, I live with my mom still, but I'm trying to get my own apartment. There are kids out here trying to get emancipated. It's so much to a world you don't even know about. But soon as I went live, it's like in on TikTok, there are people like, if there's somebody that really likes your live, or they see like, oh, you're really trying to give back to your community, because you, it's like, it's the more like, if I'm doing talking, like say if we were all on TikTok live right now, we will have about like, I don't know, we could probably range up to like 500 people. But if they see like we're doing it for a good cause, and TikTok can see that you're doing it for a good cause, there will be people in there trying to like give back. People will send gifts, people will share your live, they'll really put you out there more. So I really feel like TikTok is a really like big platform if you're using it in that way, in a sense to like give back and help people. But you can also tell people on there like, hey, I'm doing this, and you know, so that way you're not directing harm, because I know people sometimes they feel like you're giving false information, so like, oh, this is a scam, this is this is that. But like, I really feel like we can like come together and really make it to where like youth can come on there and give like Q&As. They ask something, we give answers and things of that format.
Right. No, you're exactly right. I love that you pointed out that like one of the biggest issues, which is misinformation, and how that definitely leads to some mental health issues, but also flipping it and talking about the positive aspects of social media use for young people, whether it's the ability for them to make money, make their own money on social media, or whether it's being able to get education on topics that they can't get from school or at home. If you listen to the Let's Talk podcast, I probably said it in like 10 episodes, but one of the things that always shocks me is that a young person reached out to the National Runaway Safe Line saying specifically that they had read on TikTok about a specific type of abuse which was happening to them, and they didn't know that they were being abused until they saw that on TikTok, which led them to reaching out to us. I don't want to get too far off on that topic because I want to come back to that in a bit for you, Jillian, but I want to give you the opportunity to answer that question, James. The question again is, are there any specific factors within social media platforms that exacerbate mental health issues among youth?
Thank you so much, Chris. Yeah. So from a finance, I'll speak from that because that's kind of my area of expertise. Is I think we see a lot on social media. Sometimes I'll call it incomplete stories, like on Instagram, TikTok, things like that. YouTube, even you see individuals like, oh, look at me on vacation, look at this and that, and we have kind of that keeping up with the Joneses uh, situation going on, where individuals getting a lot more credit card debt or make financial mistakes that we try to educate here at the bank. Hey, let's credit card interest rates are no go. We really want to avoid this where we can. Let's not apply for things or do things that are going to put you in a precarious position. Because a customer in good financial health is good for themselves. Obviously, it's good for the bank. It's a mutual situation. So, but in the flip side of it, there is education out there on on YouTube and things like that. If you could easily find someone that gives very pretty straightforward like financial insight, and it can be insightful and straightforward and easy to understand and brought to where the person is, so where they can understand it, and understand in their context, in their community, in their lifestyle, rather than just something that may not make sense for them. So social media, I've certainly seen both aspects of it, at least from the finance perspective of it, where it has on them.
Thank you for sharing that. You made me think of the like YouTube video, or I see videos on TikTok and Instagram of the person that just walks up to like random people who have like nice cars or whatever, and they're like, what do you do for a living? And the person goes on and on about all this money that they have, but they don't give the context of like, oh, this person like inherited lots of money, or this person has had this business passed down to them. Without the context, it makes it difficult to really be able to create a map for how you can get there yourself. So I totally appreciate that perspective. On the subject of technology, because you brought that up, I want to ask another group question. In what ways can social media and technology contribute to building supportive communities and fostering a sense of belonging? So going back to what you mentioned earlier, Jillian, is the positive aspects of social media and kind of like creating your own like chosen family, or being able to find other people who are like-minded or experiencing the same thing as you. And again, the question was, in what ways can social media and technology contribute to building supportive communities and fostering a sense of belonging? Why don't we go back to you, James, since you are already hot off the mic?
Yes, so since the community and building things like that, it can really connect people, right? That normally ultimately get isolated, right? You know, when we're talking at risk, things like that, especially again thinking from a finance perspective, unique financial questions and unique financial circumstances can sometimes be a situation where, like, hey, I don't know anyone that's experiencing this particular, again, thinking from financial circumstance. Like, I know it was brought up earlier by Jillian, things like questions like emancipation, buying your own or renting your own apartment. Those are financial questions, and you need the resources of social media. Fine, yes, you need the book explanation. Everyone needs a dictionary of what does it mean to do this, what does it mean to rent, what does it mean to work with all of it. Great, but maybe you should have like, it's helpful with social media to see like, this is my experience with it, this is the hangouts I have, this is the issues. But an individual, because that's unregulated, you got to know how to differentiate between what's good advice, how to aggregate multiple people's experiences. One person's anecdotal experience is not necessarily the whole experience. But if you see like 20 people online, they say, oh yeah, it's a total, it's a total scam, or it's a total impossible, task to achieve, emancipation this way. Fine. Then you could say that's probably more reliable. And so from that aspect, that's, how I can approach, any of the young people I
Oh, perfect. Thank you for sharing. Angela, I feel like this question is right up your alley. Do you want to go ahead and share?
Yeah, repeat the question again for me, Christopher.
Oh, absolutely. Is there, in what ways can social media and technology contribute to building supportive communities and fostering a sense of belonging?
Yeah, and the key word is a sense of belonging. Jillian, I would love to talk to you more. And everyone has said some really good points. Leveraging social media as a tool, thinking about what you want to leverage it as a tool for. For Love is Respect is for awareness and prevention, but it also requires some really strategic, not just strategic, but thoughtful approaches, right? So with Love is Respect, we make sure our social messaging to youth is accessible, supportive, safe for anyone, like young people, right? But we also, and again, it goes back to what Jillian was saying, we involve our youth council members who inform and advise us on social media initiatives and how our presence is resonating or not. It's just like you just said, Chris, they like chopped it up when you brought it to it, but look what was produced, right? We can't say we know what our young people want or what they will be more engaging with. Jillian just told us, TikTok the stuff. I know that, but some people don't. So it's important for organizations to really find that out. But also, social media is a very powerful tool, and we want to create that digital space where young individuals can actively engage and find their people, find their community, engage with each other, not just older adults, because most of the time they be like, older adults are not cool, right? It's a starting point, but it takes more than just publishing some posts, right? To Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, right? It's about the connection and engaging with the young people, especially with sensitive topics like relationship abuse or homelessness and etc. Financial abuse is a big one as well, James. But lastly, I think the most important thing that I want everyone to remember when using social media for spreading awareness and prevention messages is that it still needs to be a conversation with the people who are following and seeing our content.
I want to take a moment since you just brought this up, and I think it's a good moment. I'll come back and ask, I have a different question for you, Jillian. But Angela, while we're talking about this, how do organizations like Love is Respect contribute to educating young people about maintaining healthy relationships in the digital age?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That's a good follow-up question. But and here's the deal: Gen Z grew up in the digital world. Last year, for Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, we lead the efforts at Love is Respect. We made sure that we honed in on digital abuse. We made sure that we honed in on how we can really empower our young people to feel not just safe, but empowered to use social media in a positive way. So Chris, you put me on a rant. Ask me that question again. I'm ready for it. I'm sorry.
No, you're perfectly fine. I know I'm asking lots of questions.
No, it's okay. Ask me again.
How does Love is Respect contribute to educating young people about maintaining healthy relationships in this digital age?
Yeah. So staying safe in a digital space, what does that look like, right? Love is Respect. Some of the key elements to a healthy relationship is boundaries, making sure that young people understand that you do not have to share your passwords. You do not have to share your location, right? You do not have to get approval for posting a picture. But also we educate on, we don't tell anybody what to do. We empower them to make a decision that's best for themselves, but also understanding that the internet is forever, right? So if we're deciding to share explicit pictures or whatever, or messages, make sure that we understand the consequences that could come with that if a person chooses to cause harm. But I think the main thing is just helping young people and even our secondary audience, older adults, to understand and recognize the warning signs to an unhealthy relationship. You know, I could talk about this all day. Like, it's not healthy to be calling a person 17 times in 1 hour. That is just not healthy, but that does happen. And, you know, from that survey that I was mentioning, and thank you, Christopher, for sharing the link in the chat. We also found out that most of the people who was choosing to cause harm and using digital abuse, it happened through text messaging and messaging apps, right? So, but, you know, love bombing, gaslighting. I remember when I was 16 and 17 years old and was going through gaslighting, I didn't know the term. When I heard that term, it felt so validating because, again, going back to mental health, it made me think I was crazy. It made me think that I was like losing my mind or something, when in actuality, it was another form of power and control. So what Love is Respect does, in a nutshell, is make sure we educate our young people to empower them to make the right decisions that are good for them. We talk about physical boundaries, sexual boundaries, digital boundaries. Please go to our website if you want any information on that. I'm sorry, I go on a rant, Christopher. You already knew it, but
that's why I asked for you to be on this, because I knew that you would be able to speak on the subject. I want to shift really quickly, because you talked about empowerment, which I think that's what education is all about, is empowerment. Can you, James, talk about how technology, how does, like, let me think about this. How can technology support the health and well-being of young people who have not had the opportunity to strengthen their own, like, financial literacy? So, like, I say it all the time, like, there was no financial education when I was in school. They were like, this is money, and that's it. So can you talk about, like, that aspect of, like, being able to strengthen your own financial literacy and how technology can support that?
Yeah, so there's a lot of cool financial tools online. Now, of course, social media or the internet in general and technology, there's a lot of it's unregulated, right? So I always say, proceed with caution. Because, I can't tell you how many young people say, oh, they fall victim to a scam and call it a bad check because they see like a quick, get quick rich scheme, fall victim to that, and they become unbanked, basically, because of a mistake. But from the bank perspective, we don't know. And so there's that aspect of it, right? So that can be concerning for that technology. But then there's the really good stuff. If someone's a little more maybe established, or they look at some resources with things like calculators, which are really helpful. So if individuals like, hey, if there's a need for a personal loan, if there's questions about savings, if there's a question about how do I save to this amount, there's calculators out there that just do all the work for you. Those are so helpful. There's a lot of free resources. I say use those with caution because if it's free, then who's the product that's you? So things like we've heard Credit Karma, right? They're a perfectly good resource. There's nothing wrong with it. You do have to give your information, personal information, to a private entity that that their main objective is to recommend other companies, like another credit card from another company. Say, hey, now is that credit card a terrible idea? Not necessarily. Is it the best idea for you? Also not necessarily. It could go one way, right? But they do have a helpful resource that makes it really intuitive and easy and accessible for a lot of folks, I think, for Credit Karma, because it gives some of those big hitters like, hey, no, it's not just paying the bill on time. It's also about debt to income. It's also about that medical bill, things like that. So that's an education, like things like that. There's a few other websites like Investopedia that give like a Wikipedia definition of what it means to have interest. Wikipedia definition of what investments are, how those are different from your checking and savings. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more details that are just accessible, just if you just simply Google it. And you can, if you find the right resources, you can really get a lot more educated than anyone else could probably attend.
I'm 100% with you there. In talking to some other organizations about like what their youth advisory boards are asking for, almost every time financial literacy is something that comes up. I'm like, I didn't get financial literacy until I was in my late 20s. And it just, until I took it upon myself to do the research, it just wasn't there. Jillian, I'm curious if you've ever had any financial education through school or any other programs, whether it's about being able to save money or how to avoid scams or anything like that.
No, I've actually never had anybody really teach me about like financing. Everybody always tells you about your cash, or do you want a checking or a savings account? And then they just kind of scoot you along and tell you, all right, you're in there. And I mean, that's about it. But I would really like it if so the program that I'm in, they were supposed to be helping out with like financial stuff and like teaching us how to like be better spenders and better savers and stuff like that. And they've yet to do that. So I think it's just a mission that I have to get to before I really feel responsibly save. It's kind of like a thing I've kind of like.
Uh-oh, I think we may be losing Jillian a little bit.
People how to like save. Oh, hold on.
You're good.
It's going down.
Oh, I said that. Why don't
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Oh, and then it froze again. Why don't we take just a moment, Jillian, and see if the connection will strengthen as you're moving along there. I'm gonna switch to a question that I have specifically for you, Angela. In what ways does social media impact the dynamics of interpersonal relationships among young people?
Yeah.
This is a fun one.
I want to, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
You can hear me? I think I want to pivot a little bit. While social media it's a great way to connect with people, around the world, global, right? especially with, we're not out of it, but with the trauma from COVID-19, you know, everything started happening online, and it was important that we had that opportunity, right? But connection is something that can be so amazing, so wonderful. But unfortunately, when you're looking at digital abuse, it can also be weaponized by people who are choosing to cause harm to others. And that's unfortunate. You know, people often assume that physical violence, Chris, when they hear about abuse, but that's not always the case, especially with our young people. Dating abuse is a pattern of behaviors used to gain or maintain power and control over a partner. Physical violence is just one example of such behavior. Like James was talking about, there's financial abuse, there's sexual abuse, there's digital abuse, there's emotional and verbal abuse. And love is respect. Let me tell you this, like close to 25% of the people who reached out to us reported that digital abuse. They reported digital abuse as part of the pattern of the power and the control that they face, right? Digital dating abuse is, and I'm sure we know, but just for those who don't, is the use of technology like texting, social media, to bully, to harass, to belittle, intimidate, you know, a partner. So when I think about the ways that it can really like impact, I think it's also important that we understand that when you're talking about interpersonal relationships, that's what we're talking about. I wouldn't even say just love, you know, love is a four-letter word that can be expressed and defined in many different ways depending on the person. But when I think of interpersonal, I think of connecting, I think of community, right? And young people want that. Young people want the education. You just said yourself, you didn't learn about financial literacy till you was 20 something. I didn't learn until the first time I had to file bankruptcy. So we're not going to even talk about that. But I think that, yes, social media is a great way to connect with people, but it's also still very important to remain safe when you're online.
I want to really quickly ask Jillian, have you ever seen social media impact any of your peers or friends' relationships, like their dating relationships? Or if you're willing to share, has social media ever had an impact on your own relationship?
Definitely. Everybody goes on social media just to see some type of couple quote or relatable quote about the relationship. A lot of times, teens my age, I feel like if they see something on social media, so they say, what is it is talking about? It could be something like, oh, if your boyfriend buys you flowers, that means he really loves you. And then all these girls are in the comments and about, oh my gosh, my boyfriend doesn't buy me flowers. He doesn't love me. So I really, really feel like social media does play a big part in people's relationships, because I've even seen I've had friends that are in relationships be broken up because of stuff that circles on Instagram or Snapchat or whatever. And they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe social media broke up me and my boyfriend. And it happens a lot, mainly on TikTok, because that's when you have the most influencers and creators and everybody's in your business. Everybody knows about your life. Everybody has an opinion and a say so. So social media does, I feel like it's like a 50-50. It's if you want to give into it, but at the same time, it's already like pushed into your face of this whole stereotype. Like you have to have the perfect boyfriend or you have to have the perfect girlfriend and things like that.
Oh, thank you.
And
So
I just want to say, I love what Jillian said. I know I'm jumping in, but you know, social media, pop culture, movies, music, it romanticizes unhealthy relationships, right? We just need to really point that out. But that's why it's so important, like you, Jillian, my little activist, for young people to start really putting your truth, if you feel comfortable, on social media. We got to change that narrative, right? And it takes people who are experiencing, and you just said it nicely, like if Mia, Chris, or even James was to say it, young people might not receive it. But for you to say it, that's amazing. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just had to say that.
Sorry, I did it again. Thank you for jumping in there. I have one more question before I want to jump to the Q&A part. So if you're listening, if you're still paying attention, get your questions ready. Okay, James, this one's for you. What are some of the things that you've seen people online on social media about financial literacy that is, I feel like I'm jumbling this question. Are there things that you've seen online about financial education or literacy on social media that is incorrect or misleading? Is that something you see frequently, or should people be open to taking the advice from things that they see on social media?
Yeah, I think I may have touched on that a little bit earlier, but I'm more than happy to expand on that because, yeah, the biggest one we see is scams. Those are the biggest ones we see. Instagram is pretty notorious. Customers will come in, it'll be a young person, typically anyways, they'll deposit a check that they got offline, and the scam is, oh, here, deposit this check for $2,000. They don't understand check holds. No one's educated about how checks work. Because it's old fashioned, who writes checks, blah, blah, blah. They deposit check for $2,000. They are told to withdraw it the next day, then it's made available. And then they can keep 500 of it, sweet, $500, and give $1,500 to whomever is basically running the scam. And then sure enough, they get flagged and told they can't pay it. Those are the big ones. So it's always, anytime you see something about like trying to quote unquote make a profit or those things, those are the ones that are like not great on social media. The ones that are like acceptable, I see, are like more informational, right? If it's just like, hey, what's the difference between a checking and a savings, like a YouTube video or something like that. Those generally, I haven't seen any issues with those being like anything wrong with those. It's whenever you hear about like, hey, do you want to learn how to make a quick buck? You know, if you want to learn how to do investments, and they try to follow on a trend, they say something about Bitcoin, or they start getting more complex and things like that. Those are the ones that are hard to sometimes identify, especially if finance is entirely new to you. So I always say, you always want to fact check, just like with anything. So like fact check what they say. I'll plug email for a second. We have on our website, we have things like financial seminars. We have those, what's the difference between checking and savings? We have those kind of things that are just accessible to anyone. So we always recommend, if you see something online, fact check if it's done something else, right? Same thing like a pet, right? Or health. If you see something online, could it be 100% right? Yeah, sure, but you should double check it against something that's trustworthy. Because social media, especially if it's about making money, it's dubious. You're muted.
It's my favorite thing to do. I foresee a podcast episode about youth financial literacy with us, James. Maybe. Okay, I have more questions, but I don't want to go over time. I want to respect everyone's time. I want to open the floor up to our audience today. If there are any questions that you have for our panelists or me, feel free to unmute yourself or drop that question into our chat, and we will try to answer that for you. I'll give it just a few seconds. Any questions out there? Okay, I'm going to ask another question then. This one's for you, Jillian. How can we use social media to reach more young people? I know that's a really broad question, but I think you've seen our social media, and we've talked about some things that we are going to plan on doing together in the future. But what are some things that we could be doing to appeal to young people more?
I wouldn't necessarily always just stay on one topic. When I first started building my TikTok page, I realized like the more you stay on one specific topic, the more your audience is going to feel like it's repetitive. and that you're not bringing anything else new to the table. So I always feel like keep an open mind, always be open up to new suggestions. And if your audience is giving you, like, say this many people are saying this one thing, but this many people are saying the other, I would always do like a 50-50 with that. Bring them both together, because it's always more I can't find the word for it, but it's always better to bring whatever you can to the table instead of like I would say make a bulletin board. Like, this is what I'm doing, and I've been doing like live academies and stuff like that, and they tell people to like make a schedule, like, okay, for this day I'm going to talk about this, or this time I'm going to talk about this. So I would feel like doing that. And also with the financial part, I really feel like if we bring in more stuff like that, so like say one day we're talking to youth about this, but then this time we're talking to youth about this. So I really feel like that would be good, because then it wouldn't be like, oh, all this week we're talking about this one thing, because then you're going to keep popping up on the For You page. People are going to see you talking about the same stuff, and it's, you know, you're not going to really get as a grand of an audience as you think you will, because that's what happened to me. So like, I do hair, but me just doing like this one category of hair, nobody else is going to be like, oh, well, what else can she do? Because all I keep doing is seeing her do this one thing. So always keep that in mind. And then always like, what else is it? Hold on, let me think. Stop being so nervous, but yeah, I don't know, just always bring what you can to the table, and then always be one with your audience. Make sure that you're telling your audience that you appreciate them, and that, you know, whatever that they're bringing to the table is resourceful and helpful like that. Yeah, I don't know.
It
Christopher, I
sounds
have a
like you do
question.
know. You had a great answer there. That's like really insightful. I actually love that this has kind of turned into a whole conversation about financial literacy, because I think it's something that even we don't pay enough attention to. And that's why, like I mentioned earlier, even our youth advisory board, whenever we asked them specifically what would be helpful besides just like paying you, it's like, how about you teach us like about how money works and things like that. So I really appreciate that insight, Jillian. Did you have anything to add? I feel like I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, you're good, but I just really do think that the financial part would be really good, because a lot of times, just like what he said with like the bots, that really like stuck out to me, because a lot of times, like when you do go on Instagram, even sometimes it won't even be like, hey, do you want to make $500? They'll tell you like, hey, my friend just got logged out of their Instagram page, or hey, my friend needs help doing this. So I really feel like it's much more deeper on the scam level, because so many Instagram lose their accounts every day because people are literally profiting. Like, if you get to take somebody's Instagram account, that's money right there, because you can flip it and you can make money profiting like that. So it's more like on a scam part, because people get creative nowadays on how to take your stuff and how to take your identity. And even with loans and stuff like that, like there are so many loan apps out here, you don't even know which loan app to get, because it's like, I don't mean to throw my boyfriend under there, but he did get scammed. He did, and I'm sorry, but he did. And like the interest rates are so high, they'll tell you that an interest rate is this, but really it's this. And like, you just never know who you're trusting this time, like these days, with your money. So I just really feel like young people should actually have classes and sit down to actually know what you're doing with your money and who you should talk to with about your money, because this is your money, and once you lose your money, it's really hard to get it back. So I really feel like that's something that even I would dive deeper into, just because I even want to know how to be better with my money. So yeah, I think I'll end it with that.
Oh, a perfect ending. Thank you so much. If we don't have any more questions, panel, that means you did a
Christopher,
good
I have
job.
one more quick question.
Oh, nope. Here you go. Go ahead, Lexi.
Sorry. And I apologize if this has sort of been answered, because I had to dip out for just a quick second. But Angela, this might be more for you. If any of us or folks sort of notice that someone they know is experiencing negativity online through social media and the like, what is like the best way to deal with that if it's someone who's close to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. I think, you know, one of the things we have to keep in mind with our young people is they don't want us to tell them what to do. right? So we have to make sure that we're creating a non-judging, safe space for that conversation. So it's we created in collaboration with the Allstate Foundation. You can go on our website, and we have the parent guide. It's a parent guide, which is also can definitely be used for anyone, older adults, anyone. But it has specific scenarios, conversational scenarios that you could possibly use to start that conversation. But it depends on, you know, the age of the young person. It depends on the person that's involved, if it's a parent, and the lethality of the situation. But I think just being able to get curious, right? Just asking the right questions and being curious and allowing them to be able to talk. And even if they don't talk or share with you at that moment, you've planted a seed to let them know. And you can even say, hey, if it's anything you need or any way I can support you, let me know. And also young people they'll talk to I wouldn't say strangers, but give them love is respects information, you know, chat, text, phone. We're there 24/7, because sometimes it's easier for them to talk to someone who they don't know, but is an expert, and they'll feel safer to talk about it. Because there's a level, goes back to mental health issues, you know, a level of shame, a level of all these different dynamics that are involved. So I think the main thing is just, I'm not saying ignore it, but make sure that you're creating a safe, non-judging space to have that conversation. And just get curious. That's how I would start.
I just want to make sure to acknowledge that we are at time. So if you are like us and have a million meetings that you need to jump off, please feel free to do so. I want to also go ahead and thank all of our panelists today for giving such amazing insight. And on kind of the tail end of what Angela was saying, please don't forget that there are lots of tools out there that have been created specifically to help youth who are experiencing different types of abuse online. So like if your personal pictures have been leaked online, there are different tools available online for you to get those taken down or to have that like researched. I think that's actually offered through the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I know that Love is Respect has a ton of different data and educational information on how to protect yourself online. It's really helpful. I have become super invested in teen dating awareness violence, which I hadn't even heard of until I met Angela, and it is so important to understand. So with that, I just want to give the floor to our panelists. Any last words? That's not a threat. Any final words for today?
I can certainly speak. So I want to thank you so much again for having me here today. If anyone has any questions, concerns about financial education, especially for youth, that is something we do here at BMO, and we do, have specialty kind of programs for that. So if you ever have that conversation, more than happy to have a discussion with that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Christopher, can I add one last plug?
Yes, please.
Hi, everybody. My name's Sam. I'm with NRS. I just wanted to add that the Let's Talk Runaway Prevention curriculum that Christopher mentioned at the top of the presentation, we are actually towards the tail end of developing 3 new modules for that curriculum. One of those is a full adaptation of the internet safety module that currently exists to include more social media tips, tools, activities. So that will be coming out sometime soon. Stay tuned. It will be on our website and available like the rest of the curriculum is. And it includes information for all of the other amazing resources that we work with, like Angela's program, Love is Respect, and like the you didn't mention the name, but the service through NCMEC, Christopher, is called Take It Down. And the really cool thing about that is that it's actually anonymous. So young people can reach out and provide information about the pictures that they want taken down off of different platforms. So all of that will be in there too. So thank you. Thank you everybody for coming.
Yes, thank you for adding that, Sam. And thank you everyone for joining. I will do my best to get a copy of this presentation up today so that you can share with all your friends and family because they need to know. And again, if you can hear my voice and you haven't already registered as a National Runaway Prevention Month partner, No commitments, no cost. It's just you saying that you won't stand for 4.2 million young people experiencing homelessness and other crises every year. That is a direct quote from our CEO, Susan Frankel, who said that in one of our first National Runaway Prevention Month podcast episodes. So if you have any questions, I will leave my email here. We'll also send a follow-out email that has information on all of our panelists today. So I'm sure they're happy to answer any of your questions if you reach out to them. And thank you all again, one more time, for joining us. I really appreciate all of you for being here today. Thank you, panelists, so much. I really
I
appreciate
just
it.
want to say thank you. It was nice to meet everybody. I love doing these with you guys, and I'm just grateful to be here. If you guys have any questions for me, I guess you guys have my information, or I will find a way
I'll make
to.
sure to share. Yeah.
Okay, but thank you so much, guys, for having me.
Thank you. Hope to see you soon, Jillian. Hope to see you all soon.
Definitely.
Take care.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.